Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. How are you doing today? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, and we have a wonderful lineup today. Actually, a great topic that I think is really going to be very vulnerable to you. It's going to really help you to kind of look at different ways of thinking, but most of all, different ways of living. So I want you to maybe get a little pad and pencil. You may want to jot some things down that you may even learn about yourself or just learn about life. So again, thank you for joining us on YouTube as well as Facebook and Blog Talk. We're so excited, to give this information because, again, it is much needed. So I'm going to call on my wonderful co-host, Miss Naima Latif, our Executive Director of the Female Solution. And here she is.
Yes, Grand Rising.
Good morning, beautiful. How are you?
I am fantastic, and it's such a blessing to be with us this morning on Soulful Solutions.
Absolute.
And
Yes,
again, I want
ma'am.
to remind our listening audience to, if you want to see a visual, just go to Soulful Solutions on Facebook, and there we are. And and,
Absolutely.
and you can join us Facebook, YouTube, live. And type in your comments as we discuss this very important topic. I was just sharing with our listeners the fact that we blame other people when we have these fits of temper and something happens and we explode, and it's always, well, somebody made me mad or someone made me say this, and no one makes you do anything. You have to take responsibility for what you're putting in your own mind and reacting to or overreacting to, and really determine, what is inside of you that's making you behave the way you behave. Don't blame somebody else. Take responsibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I want to do, I would love to actually help our viewers and listeners to know the difference because sometimes we don't know the difference between an a emotional response or reaction or a logical response or reaction. And of course, everyone gets agitated from time to time or irritated, frustrated, and that's normal. That's normal to feel those things. But what happens is, are you living on the edge of your seat of life? Where everything down to traffic, uh, the workplace, children, noise, anything just tips you off. You feel
Mm,
that, you're losing control. It's hard for you to control those inner emotions. And they become either inner outbursts or outward outbursts.
yeah.
So, emotions don't always have a voice. It also, I call it silent screams deep
Oh,
down inside.
silent scream. Yeah.
Yes, silent screams because people don't hear them. They think they're not there. So I want to first examine and describe the emotional mind. Okay. Now, the emotional mind is we have an emotional regulator in our brain, and it responds off of fear.
Ooh.
Okay. So if you find things to be an imminent threat, down to the minute to the large, of course, the adrenaline from the pituitary gland is going to start releasing. So what happens is that most people are empaths and they may or may not realize that they feel more so than they think. They have this intuitive ability to feel anger, feel sadness. I mean, not just from themselves, but from other people. Someone can walk in a room and you will feel their energy before you realize it. Okay, so that's somewhat of what the emotional patterns that we experience. Now, that's somewhat normal because a lot of people are empaths. But what's not normal is when you find yourself feeling, again, overly exerted, overly stimulated, and it hits your nervous system, which then affects your thoughts and your feelings. And your subconscious mind then actually creates a habit of that. So now you always respond like you're in an imminent threat.
Mm.
You're driving down the road, someone comes too close to you, or someone cuts you off, or something of that nature, and you find yourselves responding angry. I mean, not just irritated or frustrated, but angry, to where you then cut them off and shoot them to birdie and roll down your window, scream. We call this road rage from where I came from,
Whole
right?
big incident over one little traffic.
Over one little traffic. You notice that people are not just screaming and yelling at people, they're pulling out guns and they're shooting people. And,
How insane is
and over again, just someone driving. Okay. So, what's the difference between the person that loses control I'm just giving an example so you can understand where I'm coming from.
Oh, I've seen it.
Loses control in something of that nature, and another person says, okay, I see this person not having a good day. Let me just slow down and let them have their space.
Mm.
What is the difference between those individuals? One is impulsive and one is not.
So is a person who overreacts in that situation, are they defining this little act of someone cutting them off in traffic as an act of disrespect or some other personal emotional slight that they're imagining in their own minds because maybe that's what's happening somewhere else in their life and they're frustrated about that, so they're projecting that intention onto somebody who's just innocently trying to get to work and trying to change lanes so they can drive faster, but they're responding to something that's already in their own minds and projecting that on to another driver. Oh, they disrespecting me. Oh, they're not going to do me like that. And then they create a conflict over somebody changing lanes in traffic. Is that because what's in their mind is some unresolved thing that they're struggling with, and so they project that belief of everybody's disrespecting me?
Correct. You're absolutely correct. It is all in their mind. It's not
Mm,
on the outside of them. It's in their mind. It is, I call it a switch. Okay.
mm,
So the switch is like they already have that internal issue, but things trigger them because like their trigger system is off.
mm,
So the triggers that what we call in the psychological world, like triggers are an emotional response. So they become emotionally responsive or reactive, emotional reactive. And as they are responding emotionally, it's a switch. It just like turning on, or light switch or something like that. And
mm,
it's an immediate response instead of thinking, okay, logically, if I scream out or do this or whatever, this is a chance that I may can cause an accident or something would else would happen. No, they don't think that way. They only think in the emotion that they are in, and that's extreme anger.
mm.
Because the anger is displaced. It's not about the
Just
person that's driving next to them. It's about what's going on inside of them. That's the switch. Again, a trigger. So when things don't go their way, when people don't do what they expect, when they feel that they are failing, anytime that switch just clicks, and then that's when they go into bits of anger. Now that's anger. That's not talking about guilt, shame, sadness. That's just the anger emotion. Now
Mm.
you have those primary emotions: guilt, anger, sadness, remorse, and those primary, and shame. Those are the primary emotions that have major triggers in an individual. You see, and what it does, it stifles life. It puts a very uncomfortable feeling to this individual and to others, because they are responding to, again, imminent threats. They feel that they're being threatened by their integrity. They feel disrespected. They may, they may feel taken advantage of, betrayed very easily, more so than others. Others may say, okay, well, let's rationalize with this. Maybe it's not this, or maybe it's that. No, they don't often do that. They prejudge and they assume very quickly.
Mm.
So and which then interrupts the thought process, because cognitively, they cannot consciously make a choice based upon fact. They only make it on assumptions,
Yeah.
prejudgments. You see what I'm saying? They
So
don't
there are
have any
people.
facts.
So there are people who are walking around like this all the time. They're always
Yeah,
in this state of ready to react.
urgency.
Always,
Yes,
because they have this running dialogue in their minds about whatever it is they're going through. People are always mistreating me. People don't like me. People are disrespecting me. I'm not going to let anybody uh, humiliate me or treat me badly. So everything that happens, they have this trigger in their own minds that they're reacting to, which makes sense to them, but doesn't make sense to anybody else. Because it's like, why are you angry? Why are you upset? Why are you violent? Why, because we see that all the time.
right.
Someone suddenly gets angry and overreacts, and everybody's puzzled as to what happened. Why are they overreacting? And the person, they think they're justified.
Well, again, because it's normal to them. This is what they're used to. Now everyone else can see what's wrong. Why are you all upset? And then they'll scream, "I'm not upset," but then they are, because they're in their mind. They don't know. They don't know that they are on the edge. They live on the edge. You know what I'm saying? So when, most of the time they need stress management and anger management to balance themselves out. But if they don't get it, they overwork their nervous system, which leads to hypertension and other chronic illnesses, and also mental illness.
So mood changes actually are biochemical changes in the brain. And,
Correct.
and so when people are under this state of stress or on the edge, what is the chemical reaction going on in their brains? The reason why, is it adrenaline going through their bloodstream? What is it that just keeping them on that state of high alert where everything can be a trigger?
Well, in the normal capacity of the brain reactions to our external circumstances or even internal responses, is that, again, we feel imminent threat. Like, for example, if you are faced with an oncoming accident or whatever, and you're in the accident, the brain automatically releases, the endorphins as well as the adrenaline all at one time, so that you will be able to respond and have the energy to do it, and you wouldn't get zapped, because a lot of times when we are faced with any imminent threat, we lose a lot of energy right immediately. That's why the brain responses, and we send, I call it the jump juice, because that's what it is, adrenaline. You know what I'm saying? And some people are adrenaline junkies. They love you have people who skydive and jump from mountains, and bungee jumping. Okay, these people love adrenaline, jump juice. That's what I call it, because that's what it is. However, so what happens is, in a traumatized mind, okay, we go back to trauma, could be from the inner child trauma, all right, or some episodic episode in their life experience that causes them to feel that they always are victimized. Oh, this has happened to me, or they could have suffered from PTSD, post traumatic stress syndrome. Anything that puts the mind on the edge, like feeling over exerted expansion of cognitive understandings of, like you would, one person may look at it to be something normal, and then the next person might say, oh my god, this thing has happened to me. So in the brain, Naima, the brain and the pituitary gland releases the adrenaline, and that adrenaline then goes through the bloodstream very quickly. You see what I'm saying? But again, when a person is always feeling threatened in life by something, because in their mind they're battling the victimization, they're battling
Mm,
the low self-esteem, they're battling the low self-worth because of something, a core belief that they believed when they were children, and that same core belief continues to radiate into their adult life. So now they are adults then having tantrums, and that's what happens. Then they have not yet totally grown up yet. And like again, some are aware and some are not aware of what is really happening. Because if you have to have self-awareness to know, wow, am I reacting too quickly, or am I blowing things out of proportion? Otherwise, what you do is just constantly keep doing it. And again, you're training the brain, just like riding a bike. The subconscious, anything you do more than one, more than two, three, four, five, six, every time you respond, you are creating a behavior. So whether you realize it or not, the time when you like when you want to slow down, your brain is flowing like a freightway train. You know what I'm saying? So now you're like, wow, I'm just so tired, because you're wearing out your nervous system because you don't know how to pause and
mm,
think before you act. You have to learn how to pause and think before you act, because if you don't, what happens is you put yourself in a very uncomfortable position and you start struggling, in life. Then guess what happens? Your relationships get affected. On your job, you lose patience very easily with people. Again, just driving to work, at the grocery store, the line may be long and you may be short, you may be irritated because the line is long. You just literally live on the seat of life. You live on to the point where, it is over zealous, over the top feeling that no matter, what you do, it's never enough. No one ever hears you. You just keep going through these processes over and over and over and over and over again. So the goal is to, find yourself in a place where you can literally say, self, okay, you need a mantra. Like, for example, slow down, take your time, examine what's going on, take a thought. Don't get so involved in what you see and what you hear. you know Slow down to a point where you will be able to control yourself, because it's extremely difficult to control ourselves when we are extremely emotional. And most people don't even understand. They don't even understand that they are really going through this really difficult time. And most of the time they struggle in it. They're struggling it really bad. So again, wearing out the nervous system, and then also creating a lot of anxiety. And that anxiety then goes from one extreme to another extreme to another extreme. And then you find yourself just, not, balancing in life. So if you find yourself going through that, if you find yourself wearing yourself down, feeling angry, overexerted, ask yourself, what are you doing? I mean, you need to ask yourself just that question. What are you doing? Why is this bothering me? It's not so much what you hear or what you see or what you see other people do. It's how you are responding to what you see and what you hear. So you literally again have to slow down your processes enough where you can understand how you are reacting to life, how you are responding to life, how you are, how it's affecting your body in every day, how you're sleeping, you know, what's happening, even with your relationships, with your family, with your children. Are you listening to them? Are you putting yourself at a point where you're over prejudging things? Are you overreacting? In different situations and circumstances. Again, you might have to then do some self inventory. Self inventory is where you look back on your life and you see how you responded, not so much how people responded to you, but how you responded to them. And then start analyzing that and ask yourself, you know, um, is this something that I did? And not beating yourself up, but just being totally aware of what you're doing, because a lot of times we are not aware of what we're doing, and it's normal because from day to day to day, if you're working, if you have children, if you have businesses or responsibilities to family, every all of your energy is going on the outside, so nothing is going on the inside. So automatically you go into this impulsive roller coaster ride, and it wears you out. It wears you thin. So if you find yourself being overly stressed by things, where you then find yourself overwhelmed and you're not sure about what to do, how to do it, you may definitely want to seek some kind of counsel, therapy, join a group of people or a good friend that's willing to listen to you, so that you don't overexert yourself, because that's very important not to overexert yourself, because once you overexert yourself, it's very hard to pull yourself back, unless you have to practice over and over again, and to you're like, okay, am I putting too much into this thought? Am I putting too much into the people that are around me? You know what I'm saying? Am I putting too much into this job that I have? And you'll know when you are, because you're gonna feel yourself being drained. So again, it's just very, very important that we take the time to really look at it from a different perspective. It's so easy to lose ourselves in just life. Over and over again, we question ourselves. Am I doing something right? Is things working out? And then if we ever fail, if ongoing, or more than one time, then we start self-defeating. We start, beating ourselves up, and before we realize it, we're in this slump, and now we're feeling forsaken. We're feeling that we're struggling all over again. So just again, just be mindful of what you're doing and how you're doing things, and take the time for yourself. Self-care is extremely important. You're worthy of that. You're worthy of self-care. Don't allow anyone to tell you you got to keep on going. You got until you're falling to pieces, because you are your biggest fan, whether you realize it or not. You didn't give up on you. Sometimes you might have give out. Sometimes you get tired. Sometimes you grow weary, but you don't give up. It's a part of you that will never give up. Our emotional mind sometimes drives us to the point, but that logical mind, where all the solutions are, right here. Logical mind, frontal lobe. This is what you think with. You think with that logical mind. Take the time, write things down, put things in order, because a lot of times when we are overwhelmed, we didn't take time to just stop. We just kept on going, running, 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 thinking and fulfilling other people's request. Other people's request. Living for expectations, living for our children, living for our mothers and fathers, living for friends, living for work. So when are you going to live for yourself? When is that time going to be? Out of 24 hours a day, how much time do you give you? I'm not just talking about a meal or a drink of water. I'm talking about your inner being. How much time do you give yourself? One thing about the emotions, it puts us in a place where we overexert ourselves. And it also makes us feel funny after we've done it. After we even screamed or yelled, then we be like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know, maybe I shouldn't have held things in, and maybe I should have just waited and then spoke when somebody could really hear me without me screaming. Well, that's the thing about this emotional thing, right? Because a lot of times we don't always have the control that we really want. So, again, we have to stop and then take the time to respond. Slow your being down. You operate your being from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. It's yours. It doesn't belong to anyone else. It belongs to you. It belongs to you. And when you don't take the time to slow down and process life, life will become a difficult place for you. And I don't want that. And I'm sure you don't want that either. And it takes away too much energy. We need all the energy, y'all. We need all our energy just to live life. It's enough things that's going on in the world that seems like everything is falling apart around us. But again, you know, I believe that we are going to make it in spite of it all. So we're going to go back here. Let me put Naima back on. So did you run a commercial or should we run one?
Yes, yeah, we ran the commercials while I was getting my
Okay,
battery went on my computer. So yeah, I
I
definitely kept. So
understand.
we got
No
a couple of
problem.
callers on the line, so that's great.
Let's take some callers. Yes.
All righty. Well, area code 312848, Grand Rising. Introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience and give us your question for Dr. Debbie Green.
Um, this is Rashida. Hello?
Yes, Rashida. Now I want to make sure we can hear you clearly, so make sure you're talking directly into your phone mic, and you might need to put on speaker just to make sure that we can hear you because your connection is sounding a little weak.
Hey. Okay. Can you hear me a little
Yeah,
bit
that's
better?
better. Yeah, that's better. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because a lot of times I'm very adapted to situations and environments. So I was just wondering, how does a person respond do training in anger management or adapting to be in an aggressive society where their emotions are triggered because of a sensitivity or whatever. Um, how is it that human beings, especially our young adults, who are right now in a state of emotion, how do you adapt? Because it appears to me, and this is only my opinion, that it's normal now, and that's why there's so many unsolved homicides and injuries, trauma, in my opinion. So can the sister, sort of help me with that because I am out. have
I
to
think we lost.
not just ask. I need to know. I need to know.
So I'm not sure. I want to make sure we heard the question. You're saying how do people adapt to the hostility and aggression in society? Or you're saying
not
that
adapt, not to adapt, not to adapt to it and accept it as normal because it appears to be normal in certain communities, and then the person who doesn't have that type of thought or feelings or emotions adapt because it's normal. What's abnormal has become normal. How does a person who doesn't that has a little bit more understanding about how to manage their own anger and management, not accept the aggression that's in their whatever. The person who not that way is abnormal in a society that accepts or live among that type of behavior that creates a lot of trauma and victimize other people.
Oh, I think I understand.
It's normal for them, but it's abnormal for the person who doesn't act that way.
I think I understand.
And how to manage your own
So how do you remain calm in the midst of a storm when around you everybody's used to acting or overreacting, always upset, always aggressive, and that's normal for them, but you don't want to be influenced by that or cause it to make you react the same way because that's not who you are. So you seek to be calm and self-controlled and self-managed even when other people are out of control. So
because what
we're having a
I
little
can't hear.
issue, Rashida, but I think we have the gist of what you were asking. And I mean, that's the goal for all of us, because all of us are subjected to people who are in various states of emotional self-control or lack of self-control. But you can you can always control yourself, and when you control yourself, you actually control the circumstances. But I'll let Dr. Debbie give you the insight on the psychological ways to handle that.
Excuse me before you hang up. There's another finding. If you self-control, then it appears that they become more attacking, in my opinion, and more aggressive if you don't respond the same way that they do, and you do it opposite. Then things like that, in my opinion, my experience, there's a lot of hate and aggression that builds up. How do you avoid that tension in your life if you're not that way? And most people should know how they are. So how do you? I don't quite understand, because I run into that a lot, especially in the communities that I've been traveling in lately. But I don't get in any fights. But you're surprised when the attack comes. You try to be okay, and then all of a sudden you go into a shell like a turtle. And I don't like being in the shell like a turtle. So I need to know the sister's opinion, because she sounds like she's an ocean being, and I'm thanking you for having her on, helping anybody listening.
So I understand what she's asking. Dr. Debbie, address that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Rashida, for that question. I want to help you identify some things. Okay, one thing about fear: false evidence appearing real. Okay, fear is what you see out there in the community when you see a person act angrily, impulsively. They are responding with their emotional mind of anger. And that anger that's not your anger, that's their anger. But again, one does not know how to control. They don't know how to control themselves. So what happens is they spew that out, in onto you. And I want you to also be self-aware if you're holding any fear inside of you, because fear attracts fear.
Yeah.
Okay, it attracts whatever we have inside of us. It we are attract. If it's sadness, excessive sadness, we attract things to keep us excessively sad. If if we are, if anger, also anger, it we attract things to keep us angry. So these are just emotions, and emotions are energy in motion. That's what they are inside of us. So if, again, the difference between the person that's a logical mind, that I'm not just saying a logical mind where you're not saying anything and you like ignoring your environment, but rationally, reasonably, logically, you are addressing these issues instead of impulsively. Because there's enough impulsive people living in the world. We can see that just by our news, social media. It lets you know how many people are killing each other, mutilating each other by words, actions. It's a lot of that out there in the world. But if you understand this right here, which is a biblical principle, okay? We're in the world, but we're not of the world. So therefore, you don't allow anything outside yourself to dictate what's going on the inside of yourself. You see what I'm saying? And again, if you yourself may have some issues with stressors, issues with anger, or anything of that nature, then what it does, it feeds the fear that's inside of you. If there is a small amount of fear, it's going to feed that fear, that it will expand. And what happened whenever you encounter something of like could be an imminent threat of any kind, then that's when you're going to start feeling those apprehensive feelings that you are facing. But again, you ask yourself, is it me, or is it what I'm responding to? It's how I'm responding to that stimuli, because everything is a stimulus. It doesn't matter where it is. Your outside stimulus, it's external or environments, and then you have your inside stimulus, is how you feel about yourself and how you are responding to the world, to your perception. So you may want to again examine both of those areas, so that if you are responding, what I'm saying, to a place of imminent threat, before you even get the opportunity to look at it from a logical point of view, then, you may want to adjust right there. And again, sometimes what we need is redirective thought, what we call reactive thought. Reactive thought is when, again, it's dealing with emotions, and response thought is dealing with the logical mind. And you said, can we get involved and intertwine with those things all at once? Sometimes we can, but sometimes we can't, because it's easy to get angry. Okay. But the problem is staying angry. That's what hurts us, is when we stay angered and we don't know how to process that anger and release it and let it go. So those individuals that you might be running into may not know how to process their emotions, and again, you may want to look at yourself, your being, and ask yourself, am I responding to this? Am I prejudging this as an imminent threat?
I have a question,
Yes.
because I have an associate that was telling me a story of, when she went out into her garage and got robbed at gunpoint, and that was years ago, and yet there is still a heightened sense of nervousness coming out of the house to go into the garage. And I'm sure that if people have ever experienced an act of violence, then anybody's aggression can trigger fear. How does a person undo the trauma of a real memory of a physical threat, either having experienced a threat of violence or an actual act of violence, that might have been precipitated by somebody's aggressive tone of voice or threat? How do you restore your sense of peace and being in control of your environment if you've experienced a time when you were taken out of control of your environment and someone did in fact harm you physically, that's a traumatic memory. And so it's always going to be triggered unless you can undo the trauma. How does a person undo the trauma? Is that something that they need to get therapy in order to undo that, so they can once again feel empowered and not feel like
Right,
a victim?
right. Because PTSD is real, because that's what you're talking about. Like you said, when she goes out into her garage, she still feels the apprehensive fear. And that's because the subconscious was traumatized by the experience. So, yeah, there are different techniques, Naima, to actually address that. And it is therapeutic. So that person would have to, seek a therapist, to what they call put things back in order and how to respond. You have to respond quickly. I have this technique. It's called the 45-second rule. The 45-second rule says at any immediate threat that you may be experiencing, either a negative thought, a negative feeling, immediately, because the 45-second rule is based upon the brain only can concentrate on one thing at a time. It's no, a lot of people think their brains concentrate multitaskingly. No, we make choices multitaskingly, which
Mhm.
then creates decisions, which then create occurrences. But the brain can only make in one choice at a time, meaning that on if it's a thought pattern, like if I'm thinking, for example, if I'm having a thought pattern of negative thoughts or whatever, now I can continue to think that negative thought as belief, as reality. So what the brain is going to do is give me more of that negative thought. So
Mhm.
when I immediately feel threatened, and I've done this before in a thought process, I have to shift immediately within 45 seconds. Like, no, wait a minute, where am I? I'm okay, I'm safe, and then go and then acknowledge whatever I'm feeling, but then put it back in a perspective there within 45 seconds. And you say, well, that's a short period of time. No, it's not. That's the length of a commercial.
Yes.
It's actually, I mean, commercials can be 30 seconds to 45 seconds long. You see what I'm saying? And on a television screen, you know what I'm saying? So it's enough time for you to like, okay, all right, so I'm feeling unsafe. So what should I do about this? Okay, I no longer want to feel unsafe. So I need to, maybe take a walk, or I need to listen to some music. I mean, anything you can do to divert the mind,
To trigger
that's
a
what you
different
do.
thought.
Right, right. If you're not able to divert the mind with a tangible thing, then again, you in your inner thought, you say, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe from all harm, and use a mantra like, oh, I got this. Oh, this too will pass. You know what I'm saying? Any mantra will do to cue the brain, and you have to do that every time you feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Because PTSD, if it's not like a daymare, because those are daymares when your eyes are wide open,
The
they're
nightmare,
called
daymare.
daymare. Yeah,
Yes.
those are daymares because you re-experience feeling
Re-experiencing a
in the thought
trauma.
pattern.
So let
Right.
me ask
So
Rashida this
nightmares is when
question.
you do it at nighttime.
Yes, and we all have had nightmares where it got so bad. Sometimes your subconscious mind will say, "No, I don't. I'm not going to continue this," and you will wake yourself up, uh, because it's so bad.
Some people do, but some people are
Some
not
people do.
able
Some
to. If they
people
got
can't.
severe,
Yeah,
if they got severe PTSD,
yeah,
they
they
can't.
can't do it.
They just
So
have the
Rashida,
whole act.
right? So
Yes,
Rashida, are you
yes.
having difficulty? Like, say, if you're say in a grocery store and uh somebody starts talking loud, like they're having an argument with the cashier or something, or an argument with you, if you're standing in line and they get in front of you in line and there's an argument about it, does that kind of a situation create anxiety in you? Like, okay, the more calm I am, the more they're hollering. How do I handle this so that I'm not feeling distressed, like they might commit an act of violence? Is that what you're kind of asking? Like, how do I
No,
maintain calm
mine,
when other people are aggressive?
mine is different. My reactions is normally when I'm at peace with myself. For example, I have things of the internet and like when
She don't know what we're gonna do about your phone, but we can't hear you. It's just like you're talking underwater. Is there anything you can do to make your sound better?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I said I have dreams. For example, if something happened and that was traumatizing to me, it comes back to me in a dream. Like, for example, about a week ago, I had a dream of an incident. It was so live and real. And when I woke up, I had pulled a whole fistful of my own hair out of my head. Oh. And I know it felt sort of funny. And I looked on the floor and I had pulled it out of my head while I was sleeping, threw it on my floor. And then the other experience I have of what helps me deal with when I'm not sleeping is a saying of Muhammad. It says, be quick to anger, be quick to anger and fast to slow down. I mean, something to that effect.
Yeah, I know the quote. If you're quick to anger, be quick to cool down.
So that's one thing. But my trauma is normally when I'm sleeping, and I have to say for myself, I love my own hair. I pulled down a whole thing. It's like, I'll wait till it's done. Because I had a dream of the police who tried to rape me about 10 years ago.
And you're still traumatized. You're still traumatized from that.
About it. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And I thought I was fighting in my sleep, but I thought I was just dreaming. When I woke up, a whole ball of my hair was lying on the floor. So it only comes on me badly when I'm restful. When I encounter an experience, I usually, get fretful about it. Or when there's a recurring experience, I get fretful. But then, consciously I say, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Or like, for example, I rationalized the killing of my grandson. I said, I know he's a good guy, he's innocent. He was an angel. So therefore, I know Almighty God got him, that he went straight to paradise. That's how I deal with the trauma of the unsolved homicide of my grandson. But I still have that feeling. And then when I look at the news or something, recently, it seems like every time I go outside, I'm either seeing somebody dead, and this is not a bad community, or hearing about it. So I reflect back emotionally on it, but then I instantly say, reciting in my mind a paragraph or scripture. But mine's usually, I can't control it when I'm sleepy. It's not when I'm in a crowd, because I can, sort of deal with it. I don't accept it. I can deal with it because I know I can remove myself from that situation. Or if somebody makes me angry, I know how to get away from them and don't let them influence me to become the same way. But I cannot deal with when I'm sleeping and dreaming of it. And now it's getting bad because I'm pulling my own hair out of my own head. So that's the problem.
Well, thank you, Rashida.
I did the holistic therapist, and they have clinical services, and they're so good that you can use your insurance, your Medicare. So I'm at that stage now of helping myself.
Well, Rashida, I and of course, Dr. Debbie can respond with a more clinical analysis, but what I feel is that your subconscious mind is telling you need to address the trauma and resolve it, because it's not going to go away by itself. You're going to need some assistance with that. There's a very traumatic thing to have gone through, and then the repeated trauma of having someone who is supposed to be in a position to help actually be the one who threatens your safety, your security, your threatens to violate your body, all of those things. It was a deeply traumatic experience, and your subconscious mind seems to be prompting you to address it and heal from that trauma, because it's not going to leave until you do. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
seems to me your subconscious mind is telling you by giving you those dreams. But Dr.
I
Debbie.
did the Lyle Center. As I said, they have um, psychologists, psychiatrists, and they're holistic. They're from my same religious group. And before, when I had a time, a sister was trying to get her PhD, and I was her client, whatever you might call it. Mm-hmm. So I have to deal with self, because can't nobody else deal with me. If I listen to other people, I'll be cracking a cuckoo bird. Others than those who really know what they're talking about. Because people can be very painful. You tell them that you have an emotional problem or an incident that's traumatizing, and then they try to label you. I have had people that I work with that cuckoo is a bird, but they gonna call me crazy when I express to them my emotions about my injuries. I didn't seem like in some communities they like pour salt in the room. So what I asserted myself to do, not just to help myself, but first be is enrolled in the clinic process with professional holistic psychiatrists and psychologists. Because after pulling my hair out, I knew internally that was too much emotion, and I'm doing damages to me now in my sleep. So that's harmful. So I'm scheduled to start attending, and then as I grow, those in my community that's killing things like that for each other have the opportunity too, because we're going to offer it online, and these people are professionals. That's why I like the sister you have, because she was motivational, and I want to tell her thank you very kindly for your help, and you too, sister.
Well, thank you, Rashida. We appreciate you so much. We're going to take a break in a few minutes. But, I would say this, that if you are going through anxiety and you know that there's a recurring problem, therapy is the solution. But a therapist is just like a carpenter or a plumber. You have some that are good and some that are not so good, and they all might have their license. But you look at the results, and you look at how is it making you feel, because therapy ultimately restores the sense of wholeness if you feel broken, and when you've been violated you feel broken. So a therapist should make you feel even more broken. That's not the purpose. Just like a plumber who's fixing a leak shouldn't come and then you got even more water squirting out of the pipes and causing damage to your property. So, choose wisely. And, Dr. Debbie, I'm sure you've got the information on the screen. For those who are listening, you can tell them how they can contact this and set up a session. Because a lot of people are walking around with injuries that we can't see, and they need help.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. Absolutely. I just, again, trauma is one of those things that it lies deep down inside us, and every cell of our body remembers the trauma. So if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you.
That
And
is
it will
true.
live through you.
That's
And
true.
the thing about it, because it's alive and breathing, it is not going to go away until you find out what it's attached to, and that's a root. Whatever it's
Yeah.
attached to, and then deal with that root, deal with it, handle it, settle it, finalize it, pull it up, remove it, so that that trauma can dissipate in your being.
Yes.
Otherwise, you just continue with it. That's the way it works.
Yes.
So we're
We
going to go to a commercial.
Yes, and we'll be right back. So if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325. We got a couple more hands raised on the switchboard. Will come to you after the break. And of course, that email to contact Dr. Debbie is soulfulsolutions77@gmail.com. That's soulful, SOULFUL, solutions77@gmail.com. Email her.
We'll gladly
And
help you. Absolutely.
absolutely. Don't
Anytime. We'll gladly help you. If you also need training on anything anger management, stress management for your job, for yourself, anything of that nature, for your group, please feel free to contact me.
absolutely.
You won't
That's
regret it.
here. Yes. All right. We'll be right back after this quick break. So stay with us.
We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, the earth will be populated by a generation of adults, many of whom are yet unborn. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for fellow human beings in the next generation of children, then it will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. Go to www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve a peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shinsu Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com. Hey, it's time to take charge of your health. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach, and every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'm here on the Female Solution to empower you to make choices that will assist your evolution to abundant health. I'm also blogging every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at Soul Purpose Healing, where I bring you a spiritual chiropractic adjustment to bring you back into alignment with our Creator's love, compassion, and wisdom. Join me every Friday morning at 8 a.m. and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. for a time of unity, enlightenment, and love vibration. Shalom.
All right. We are
Welcome
back.
back. Yes, welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green. Thank you for joining us with my wonderful co-host, Naiva Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. Can we take those callers, please? Thank
Yes,
you
we
so
can.
much.
Gonna take you all in this order, so hold on. 773-737, 312-671, and 312-366. So hold on. And anybody else on our switchboard that wants to press one, go ahead and do so, and we'll get to you as well. So 773-737. Introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience and give us your question or comment for Dr. Debbie Green.
Well, hallelujah. Greetings, global transformers. Leonia Shalom.
Yes.
Mama D
Grand
from
Rising.
Yes. Hallelujah. Greetings,
Hallelujah.
Mama D. We'll be hearing you this Saturday. Looking forward to some more wisdom with Mama D.
The two traumas I want to talk about happened in front of my daughter when she was about 5 and 6 years old. She saved my life during the second incident because I was trying to save my brother's life and prevent him from knifing my other brother in the back when he wasn't aware. Okay. Let me start with the first one. My daughter and I was just casually walking down the street, and I had my purse wrapped around my arm, and we was just walking. And this man came up, and he grabbed my purse, and I was so startled. You know, I didn't know what was happening, you know. I don't know if it was that 45 seconds or that 45 seconds. Oh, no. But I didn't know what was happening. And then he grabbed my purse, and I had it wrapped around my wrist, my arm, and the next thing I know, he was running with the purse and me too. And one of my arms was on the sidewalk. It immediately got straight to the bone. The arm that was hanging down because he was dragging me and the purse.
Oh my!
And I'm looking backwards, and I'm seeing my daughter, and she's like, "What do I do? Where do I run? What's happening?" And so then I unwrapped my arm from the purse, you know, and he kept on running, and I'm on my back on the sidewalk looking at my daughter. Now, it was like she was like in a freak out mode, and I'm only seeing her because he's got one arm up in the air, and he's running with that arm that's got that purse in it, and this other arm is dangling on the sidewalk, and I'm looking backwards on my back at my daughter. So then I quickly unwrapped my arm from the purse strap. The guy kept on running, and then I was able to comfort my daughter. It was just in freak out mode. She was about 5 years old. Now the other time,
oh my! So your daughter was 5 years old, you say, at the time?
She was about 5 years old.
Oh my!
Then.
Oh my!
And as soon as I realized, you know, what was happening and saw her and treat myself, then I was able to just comfort her, and we comfort each other, and that sort of
that's horrible.
The way that went. And the other time, my brother from Vietnam had not slept for about 3 days. I don't know what he was high on. You know, a lot of the veterans came back with marijuana addictions and stuff. So
heroin. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, he was in the bathroom. It was all from the kitchen, and I was helping my mother cook fried potatoes, and I was cutting the potatoes up, and this knife was razor sharp. And I was peeling the potatoes with this razor sharp knife. And he was talking to my brother from the bathroom to the kitchen, and my mother was there. And my brother said to him, "Oh, man, I don't want to fight you." And he walked away. And when he walked away, my brother came out of the bathroom, and he picked up that knife. I was cutting potatoes with that knife. I knew how sharp it was. And he drew back the knife, and he went after my brother, gonna knife him in the back.
Oh,
and when he went after, while he had his back turned and he was just walking away, I jumped up from the chair, from the table, and I stepped in between, and I said, "You don't want to do that." And then the next thing I know, he had me by the throat. That's why I talk so hoarse right today.
Oh my!
And he damaged my vocal cords. One is a lot smaller than the other one. So he grabbed me. I done jumped in between them. So he, I guess through the grace of Almighty God, I don't know what happened to the knife. I guess he dropped it. But he grabbed me by the throat, and here he was dragging me from the kitchen to the bedroom to the living room to down a flight of stairs. He still got me by the throat backwards. I guess these backward actions to be over.
Always looking back.
Yes. And he got me by the throat, and I'm going down the stairs backwards on my back because he has me by the throat, and he's from the kitchen, as I said, from the kitchen to the bedroom to the living room, and now I'm on the second floor, still being held by the neck. And then we end up on the front porch. My mother, everybody is there freaking out. Let her go, let her go. She is doing it. Oh my God, let her go, please, let her go. And then they're freaking out, but they're not doing anything. My daughter had just gotten her 2 front teeth, the big ones. And she came up while I'm being killed, murdered in front of everybody. She came up and she grabbed his arm, and she took those new great big front teeth that she had, and she bit into that arm.
Wow. 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 But your life needs to be a movie. I mean, this is just wow. Oh God. Oh my God. How old was she? And so she wasn't that old. Then she was what, about 6 or 7? I know when you get your 2 front teeth, it's not that old.
Just got her 2 front teeth. So she was about 6 years old then.
Yeah. Wow.
He bit into that arm, and he let me go. And I couldn't say a word. It just choked the sound out of me.
Wow.
I'd say that one was. But it wasn't until this morning that I connected those dots and was able to say, now, the first time she saw me being attacked, and on that side, being pulled by the robber, she was just
in shock,
almost going around in circles, just horrified.
Yes.
And I was able to see that look on her face of, what do I do? What do I do? But the second time, there was no hesitation on her part.
Yep. She said, I'm not letting nobody drag my mother again. That's it. You're right. You're right. You know that first trauma, she said, that'll never happen again. She stepped in, and with her new teeth, she made him let you go.
He took his arm and let me go.
Wow. Wow. Well, that.
My other brother
wow.
had left the house. He never even knew that my brother was going after his back.
And he didn't know you stepped in to save his life.
He left the premises, and he was gone. He wasn't even there while all of this was going on.
Wow.
Because he just was leaving the scene. Man, I don't want to fight with you, and So he wasn't even there around to see what the aftermath was.
Well, did he ever? I'm sure he found out what happened later.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure they told
That's
him.
another thing. That's another thing. We don't talk about incidents like that.
Oh,
We're just glad they're over. And it's not like
That's true.
revisit it
But
or have another talk about, oh, well, you know, you had to get this, that. There was never any conversation about that with my mother or my sister that was both there on the porch seeing what was happening, freaking out, but not doing anything. Let her go, let her go, let her go wasn't happening. My daughter sunk those 2 new front teeth in his arm.
Wow.
As hard as she could.
And that made him let you go. Wow.
but the thing about those things, they late.
What I just like to ask the question. It's just like with the Tulsa trauma that the children experience. It's like it's some words in a song that says memories, things too painful to remember. We simply choose to forget.
Yes.
And I know that first near death experience I had when this man, after robbing me home invasion, decided that to tell me to suck it. And when I felt that liquid on my hand, to this day I don't know if it was semen or if it was urine, but I jerked my hands back, and that was it. And when he hit me with the back of the knife in my thigh, hard enough to cut me, then I just came to the realization, you're going to die right here on your sofa in front of your altar, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then I became unearily calm. I mean, it was that calm that really surpasses all understanding. It really does. And I was just as calm as could be, and I looked up at his face. No, first of all, I said, Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit. Because this is it. He just hit me with the back of the knife and cut me, so he just made a believer out of me. So I just might as well surrender, and what is going to be my last words? And I don't know. I don't recommend anybody have to have a near-death experience to come to that, but my last words were, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And when I said those words, the voice that came out of my mouth was not directed by my brain. I had nothing to do with that voice that came out, but that voice looked up into his face and said, do you really think you have my life in your hands? Well, he pulled up his pants and decided to steal the VCR off top of the big screen. And at that point, he still had the knife. I don't want to go into that whole episode. that was
another trauma. You've gone through multiple traumas. I mean, multiple traumas that you have had.
That's exactly what that is.
But one thing, that particular incident, and I think it points to what happens to us spiritually when the fear of death is removed. All fear is removed, because that's really what our anxiety is always about. We're afraid of physical violence. We're afraid of physical death. We're afraid of the experience of pain. But once all of that is gone, there's nothing anyone can do to you. And that's the power that we have. Once we have no fear of death, there's absolutely nothing anyone can threaten us with. And so therefore, there is no fear. That's spiritually what happens when you go through that. You describe it as a near-death experience, but that is in fact what happens when a realization comes to you that really no one has the power of life and death, because there is no death. Your soul is eternal. So there's really nothing anybody can really do to you. And the peace that comes over you at that point, it's unshakable. And at that point, you have no fear of anything ever again, because you realize on a soul level, there's nothing anyone has the power to do to you. So that's a tremendous experience to have.
And it really is amazing. It is amazing, kind of great that it's just beyond. You're in another dimension.
Yes, you're in another dimension.
It's peaceful. It's glorious, and it's just it really is just awesome. And I had that same experience on Saturday before last, on February 11th.
Oh yeah, with the car accident.
The car accident. I saw this car out of the side of my eye. It was coming. I was at Elmkill Road, 271st Street, the street where I could see the idea and wrote the ordinance for Emotiionally Road. When Rosa Parks came out to the street dedication, she said it was what happened to Emmett that gave her the courage to do what she did.
Yes.
And his legacy has been buried for 30 years up to that time. And Till Road resurrected that legacy of Till that has been buried for 30 years. But anyway, that's where the accident happened. Till Road is Damon. And so the car, I saw it out of the I'm out in the street, and I saw this car, I mean, with tremendous speed, and I started to brake. And you know, when you're braking with all your might, the van, so it wasn't swerving or anything, and the wheels wasn't screeching, but I was in brake down to the floor mode and sort of stepping back. And so what she did was she hit the front of my car. But if I hadn't been braking and in step mode, I would have probably had hip whiplash going forward and back. But I was already in the stepping mode when she hit. Now she took off my fender with both headlights, and license attached. She just sliced it right on off from the radiator, and that was the little dent, like on the radiator. But she just sliced the whole portion off. Now I'm sitting there behind the wheel, and that calm, that undescribable peace. That's how I knew. I know what that was, because had I not braked, she would have hit me.
Yeah, that probably would have been an instant fatality.
I would be having this conversation today, because that door side she was going so fast. And what happened to her car was, after she sliced off all the bumper and fender and headlights with the lights attached, her car sped completely around and ended up on a flat tire.
Wow.
She was traveling that far, and her car was undrivable because she's on a flat. And I'm sitting there behind the wheel with this awesome grace in the presence of that grace, that peace.
Total peace and calm, even though you've almost experienced death. Almost experienced a fatal crash. And I think that's, so I mean, when people have experienced that, when you're actually faced with this is the end, something happens where your soul just takes over, and you realize that, well, that happens, okay. And then there's nothing to fear anymore.
You realize that you're in good hands.
Yeah.
And that he is so outside of the normal realm of life experience that you know what it is. I'm going to have almost as many lives as Minister Robert Floyd Plum.
Well, that's the thing. I wanted
to ask, why is it that now I'm talking about it and everything, but the old way of thinking was, well, that's over, shut your mouth, don't talk about it, just forget it. And this is the kind of advice that you used to get from people until we got down. I have been all these of mass shootings, and then people say, "No, talk, talk, talk."
Right.
It's good. Talking gets it out. Let
Right.
that person talk. But the old way of thinking was, "Oh no, forget
Just
that.
don't talk
That's
about it.
over with."
Yeah.
You're still talking about that,
Right.
and it's the only therapy that you really get is talking and having somebody listen to you tell what happened.
Right.
Like I told you about what happened
Right.
last
Right.
Saturday on the 11th.
Yes. Yeah. And that I mean, that was a trauma as well. Almost getting hit. You know, that's a memory. Like Dr. Debbie's saying, every experience is recorded in every cell of your body. So even if people don't let us talk about it, it's not forgotten. It's never forgotten. So Dr. Debbie, she brought out a
Yes.
major point, because in our culture, we tend not to discuss, first of all, violence in the home. Everybody's, oh, don't tell your business. So you got all these domestic violence things happening right now in people's homes that the children aren't allowed to talk about. We have things that happen to us, and we're supposed to not talk about it, as if we mention it, you know, okay, if you don't talk about it, it'll go away. But it doesn't. Like Rashida's saying, you got dreams, your mind won't let you forget. So what do we need to do to change that culture of don't talk about the traumatic things that have happened, so that people can know that they should talk about it and not let it get bottled up until it explodes?
Absolutely. Because, as the culture that we literally grew up in, is, hush, don't tell. You know what I'm saying? I don't want, I don't want to worry your grandmother. I don't want to worry your auntie, or whatever the case may be. But what they really didn't realize is what trauma does to a human being. You know what I'm saying? So again, trauma again creates fear. Fear is a magnetic force that is literally inside of us that attracts other things that keeps us in fear. And I don't think, and like you said, I heard her, Mama D said, the peace that surpasses all understanding. And what that is that your logical mind, which God has given you, had then kicked in automatically. You see what I'm saying? Because of the fear that you were experiencing. You see what I'm saying? It totally transitioned, and that means you have a healthy, what they call a healthy subconscious. Everyone doesn't have a healthy subconscious, even though they might have again experienced fear. And I can clearly see that you definitely experienced a lot of traumatic episodes in your life. So the subconscious was like, okay, here we go again. Let's do this. You see what I'm saying? So it was, but the vividness which you described, you will never forget that, because you just rolled tape. You just roll
Mhm.
tape. So
Play
when
it
we
back.
roll tape, it automatically comes back. So if we're ever in an area, like if, for example, if parents know that their children or even themselves might experience trauma, it's good to talk about trauma. It's good to talk about the things that you experience, because all of those suppressed emotions that are around that trauma get exposed, get the opportunity to come out of your being. You know what I'm saying? If some people don't want to admit, oh my goodness, I was scared as hell. I was broken down. I was this, I was that. Yeah, after the fact, you see what I'm saying? Some people are like, okay, well, I got over it. It's okay. I'm fine. So I don't want to talk about it no more. I don't want to touch it no more. But then what happens sometimes, and it's not all the time, but what happens sometimes, we experience another trauma. And then if that other trauma is not settled, it then erupts with that present trauma. And that's what causes us to kind of spiral out of control. And it interrupts our sleep patterns. It interrupts how we eat. It interrupts how our mood changes from one point to another point, these things like that. So if for those who are listening, the symptomatic orders of trauma unsettled is going to be interrupted sleep, insomnia, sleep deprivation, okay, sleep deprivation, even unhealthy appetites as well, because the being will let you know when it's not settled. Um, Chronic pain. is another. Fibromyalgia, that right there, they call it the trash can chronic illness because they don't know where it comes from. I truly think it came from instilled trauma that has not been settled and that it affects the nervous endings of that individual so tremendously to the point where it constantly gives them physical body pain.
Wow.
Physical body pain. So
I just say this, the trauma turns into a testimony.
Yeah.
yes,
Glorious experience after you come out until you just want to share it with somebody.
Right.
right.
So I guess that is the human,
That's the
the
lesson.
goal of the soul,
Yes.
to turn that trauma into a testimony.
That's
He
it.
who testifies is greater than he who witnesses.
I like that. All right. We got to take our last break. Thanks so much for sharing that story,
Thank
Mom.
you. Yes.
Yes. And we'll be right back. Got a couple more callers on the line. Gonna get to you. Hold on just one moment, and we'll be right back after this last break. So we want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment, so stay with us.
Crime in Chicago continues to increase. Community and politicians must come together to make a change. No one person can solve these problems by themselves, but I believe together we can make progress. Let's provide job training, economic growth, and invest into our 77 communities. Let's rebuild and restore Chicago. Vote for me for mayor of Chicago. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I approve this message. Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
Is Monday morning a struggle to get out of bed into the swing of things? Well, don't worry, you are not alone. Join us for thought-provoking, stimulating, and mindful conversations on higher learning with Delta Speaks for your Monday morning mindfulness session on Blog Talk Radio, The Female Solution, Mondays, 7:30 until 9 a.m. Be sure and send your ideas, thoughts, comments, and suggestions. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit DeltaSpeaks.com and send us your info. We'd love to have you. Experience mindfulness moments with the mindfulness/stress relief coach, Zelda Speaks. And thanks for sharing the mindfulness moment tip of the day. Stay on purpose, stay empowered, and stay tuned to your next session of mindfulness on higher learning with Zelda Speaks. Make it a mindful day. And thanks for listening.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their story to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on Cable TV, Channel 19 in Chicago. And other cities, check your local cable listing.
Right.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green. We're at the top of our hour here with my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, our executive producer of The Female Solution. So did we have any more callers or we were pretty much done with?
Yeah, we got a couple more callers.
Okay.
We'll take you in this order: 312-671 and 773-450. And anybody else on our switchboard that has a thought they'd like to share or a question for Dr. Debbie, please press 1. So 312-671, your mic is open. Go ahead, introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience and give us your question for Dr. Debbie Green.
Hurrah. We don't die, we multiply. Black is beautiful. And
with some black education and power, with the miracle going on with the female solution, I am Robert Floyd from Chicago, Illinois. And I am happy, I am healthy, and I am wealthy, and I am wise that the female solution is the world's greatest blog radio station and TV I ever seen or heard anywhere in the world. And it's not to anyone. It is always number one. And Dr. Deborah Green, Mayor Washington used to say, if you got it, you got it. So I just want to thank you today for, having the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding of the human being, and especially our people, and to be a part of the female solution is a way of life that everybody needs this. The response to the world is everybody responds to either need, greed, or curiosity. So I thank the Lord God that Yahshua, who most know as Jesus Christ, is a black man, and like us and I'm my brother's keeper, and I'm my sister's keeper. And I'd like to just say thank you for all that you have done in helping to be a part of this female solution, and being a part of my life too, and being a part of the solution, because I know
PTSD
is real, as you said. And I am a miracle. Mama D, I introduced her, Mama D Love, and also Sister Rashida to the female solution, and others too.
Thank you.
But I just want to thank you again, and we are in it to win for being a part of we, us, and our solution. So God bless you, and God, I wouldn't even be able to say nothing. I've had a couple of miracles more than double, triple in my life.
Wow.
Mama D say like a human being, a man with nine, like a cat that got 9 lives. I done seen those kind of miracles in my life and more. And I know that you are a miracle, and Sister Naima Latif. God bless your heart. Keep up the good work. I'm going to let somebody else get on next.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Minister Plum. We appreciate those words of encouragement and upliftment. Yes, and keep on living. You got some more lives to go, so keep on. All right. 773-450. Introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience, and give us your question for Dr. Debbie Green.
Good morning, all of you, greetings and grand rising to everybody today.
Grand rising. Thank you for joining us.
I second the Plum promotion. What would we do without the female solution in the morning? Skip over GMA and all those other national programs. Really get involved.
Let's go to the global one. That's who we are. And we talking to the world every day. Thank you so much. Yes, we are excited to be with you every day.
There's 2 things. One is about the trauma. So trauma, it's really serious, because you have, like, I remember once the 4th of July, I had visited a friend of mine, and I was outside in the car at night. Well, a police officer pulls up beside me. He's drunk, staggering. He pulls a gun out after me, and when he just comes out the car, I'm in my vehicle. He's thinking I might be breaking into a car at his man. And if it hadn't been for my girlfriend or the police saying, hey, leave him alone, he lives here, a drunk officer might have fired. So that's just one incident of, unfortunately, meaning where I've actually been shot at. So it can be traumatic because, say, for instance, like my purpose, my name's Obadiah, so I'm a servant, a messenger of the Most High. So we go anywhere we need to help. Those on the ground, all the way up to those that are supposed to be in higher places. But the point is, for me, I can't step out there in fear. And they shoot so much nowadays. They're shooting people in the head, the car, and all this.
Everywhere.
New Year's Eve, when I was coming home from work one night, and I used to work at the airport, so I would come home. It's like, they said, well, I'll wait 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock, they'll stop shooting. And I'm getting off the bus, walking the last 3 or 4 blocks home. And these people are still
shooting, making me target practice.
Wow.
For New Year's Eve. There I am, zigzagging through the street, running and laughing like it's funny, which is insane just to think I was doing that. But in that type of neighborhood, it also reminds me of Beirut when they say, oh, you're going to have trauma for living in these dangerous neighborhoods. But I say all that just to say, you have to bear up on this some type of way, even when it seems insane. But the reality of it is that it's trauma that traumatizes other people, and it's the way you're going to react to it that makes the difference all along. I'm standing on a platform one night. Cars are driving. This is a summer night. We had a birthday party up there. They dropped me off and stayed at the train station at 1 in the morning. And these guys are driving down the expressway, going about 80 miles an hour. Behind the driver, in the back behind the driver, they pulled the window down, and then they shot it. Had I not went to the left and to the right, I wouldn't be talking to you today. Wow. But he shot an automatic weapon that sprayed somewhere between 18 and 24 bullets.
Oh, that's horrifying.
So this was some type of initiation piece. I was told one way, which seemed silly at the time. I just humored the spirit and went that way. When the bullet started flying, I could have literally just reached out and touched the bullet because they were beating all around me. I just froze. And I'm just saying it because when they went by me and I stopped to think, wow, I could have just been taken in a hair's breath. And it's so fast, you don't even have a chance to think about it. It's like a movie. It's slow motion. But no one can touch me because I'm still talking as we're speaking. But nonetheless, I'm just saying that could have traumatized me. Yes. But every day I step out here in this existence every night to deal with people that are from the bottom up. And you can't have that fear. You have to be strong and know that you're there for a purpose. It's as if I have a hedge around me so that no harm will come to me because I'm out there trying to do some good to help someone else. You know, a lot of times they talk about biblical times. There was a leprosy camp. Who wanted to go to the leprosy camp to help the lepers out and try and get leprosy? But they had people who raised their hand and said they were going to go anyway. Just like where Harriet Tubman would take the group to Canada. Everybody's celebrating because they made it. And then Harriet asked and the other people, how many of y'all going back down here so we can get some more? And I felt like I would have been one of those whose hands shot up, like, we got to go back there and free as many people as we can, even if it's one.
Yes.
Wow.
Gotta have faith.
And that's how it works. A lot of people don't realize the sacrifices and the bridge that people create for them that they know nothing about. Because somebody's to making sure you get across. If you have to carry them sometimes.
That's right. That's right. You know, that's a powerful story, Obadiah. And one thing I think helps people get to that point of fearlessness, when you realize you're going to be here until it's your time to go. And when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And so until that time, you're going to live, and you're going to live fearlessly. And that's what our soul is here to learn, that lesson. Live until it's your time. And you're not told when your time is, so you won't be focusing on it. So you can go ahead and do the work you came here to do.
Love casts out fear.
Absolutely.
That's the only
perfect love casts out fear.
That person might not get through. You know, somebody has to go back and get the one lost sheep.
That's right.
Everybody but there's got to be somebody strong enough to get the last one and swoop them in. But here's the other thing I was going to mention was that it came up from a friend of mine. Sometimes it's an energy thing too. Certain people you shouldn't even be in contact with because of their spirit and not being positive. So I had remembered I invited a friend to check out a program that some ministers are saying, but because I knew one of the ministers personally, I relayed a personal story about how they had borrowed money twice from a friend of mine, never paying it back. And the minute I said that, my other friends said, don't be giving me nothing from them. If a minister has no integrity, I don't want to hear nothing from them. So what I'm saying is, oftentimes we'll think that we're doing something. We have to be careful about who we're entertaining, even with our spirit and our time. You have to be very selective. You just can't. I call myself a specialist, but you have to be selective in who you're dealing with because everybody doesn't mean you any good.
That's right.
Well, Obadiah, that's,
Mm.
and I think that's another thing. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today. I think that's another thing. Like you mentioned, we're magnets, and you're going to attract to you the people who reflect who you really are on the inside. And
Yeah.
when you know somebody, it doesn't vibe with your spirit, step away. If you know you're not an angry, aggressive person, don't keep company with somebody who, they're always um, creating that energy of anger and upset, or you're with somebody who's extremely fearful, and it's like they're attracting the very thing that you don't want to happen, which is somebody's act of violence or some robbery or whatever. We have to be in a state of peace, and that
Yes.
is the magnet that attracts the experiences that are peaceful. But whatever you are on the inside, you're going to always see a reflection of it on the outside. That's why I think, and Dr. W, I guess is what we've been saying. When you've been traumatized, that's inside of you. You got to heal that, because you don't want to keep attracting
Correct.
experiences that
Yes.
traumatize you until you heal from the trauma. I think that's what even our souls want us to do, is to heal from trauma. So we're going to keep re-experiencing things until we master that state of peace of mind, where we're not
Right.
able to be emotionally upset and triggered all the time. We're here to
Yes.
master that, and
Hmm.
and be at a state of peace all the time, regardless of what else is happening outside of us.
That is very true. And again, we release with words. I think people just assume that you can go through a traumatic event and forget about it and not talk about it, and think that it's just going to go poof and go away. But it doesn't work that way. We release in words, we release in giving our being permission to let it go. I do this. I created this back in 2013. It's called life cycle analysis. And what it does is I take the person into an array of looking at the traumas of their life from
Mhm.
childhood, as early as they can remember, up to the present. And again, this is not something a person does like immediately. You have to build yourself up inwardly to do that, because a lot of people think they're strong until they face their trauma head on.
Mhm.
Um, and you literally speak to it in first person, like whoever wronged you, whatever abuse you might have had, and dealing with people, especially people. Um, we found out the rape victims suffer from PTSD, or even Vietnam vets might have had to take someone's life, and felt a traumatized issue in that. Trauma can occur in any different type of situation. You have mild, moderate, or severe traumas. So, but to speak to those traumas in first person, and allow yourself to speak to your abuser or someone that might have hurt you or whatever, even though that person might have been passed and gone, or you have no way of contacting that person, that doesn't stop you from speaking, because there is a suppressed word, action inside you, emotion in you, that has not been said. So when you address those things and you allow yourself to say, you know, I am saying you did this to me, and this is what I felt about what you did to me. And I am saying this now. And you go into, again, speaking in first person. After you speak in first person, then you start the releasing. I choose to release it from my heart, from my mind, from my soul, from my spirit. And I am forgiving myself as well as I forgive the person that hurt me. When you speak those words out loud, then that trauma, that fear of that trauma, then dissipates, because it has to, because it's no longer inside of you. Because I think,
Might
again,
be
people
powerful.
think they walk with this physical body, Naima, that the energy that's in this physical body is not affected by our lives, but it is. It is. We hold what is called soul scarring. So,
Mm,
soul scarring happens from trauma, from trauma. That trauma is anything, any action, anything that happens that disrupts the normalcy of life. Someone can have a traumatized event in a grocery store. Okay, let's look for it really quick at those individuals that survived trauma when someone had a mass killing. Those
yeah,
individuals will never be the same until they get very in depth, intensive therapy to
yeah.
live out their lives. I actually talked to one of the survivors of the Charleston um, massacre there at the church. If you were some years ago, where the nine
Yeah,
individuals that
yeah.
was murdered, and she survived. She survived. She was the one that the young man pointed the gun and say, "I'm going to allow you to live to tell the story."
Wow, that is
She
insane.
survived.
That is
She
insane.
survived, and
How is she? I mean, trauma wise,
well,
how is she?
she won't talk about it. She won't, and she's
Can't talk
affected
about
about it. But it's like she says that when it first happened, it was so she was so emotionally shocked to the point where she couldn't function for a period of time, and she's an older person,
it. Mm,
and since she leaned on her faith to keep her. But as I
mm,
told her, I said, God is the one that nurtures and he soothes the soul, but we are the one that makes it a choice to also do the same.
mm,
We have to do our part too. Again, we think that everything just goes poof and is gone. But again, these are energies that you felt in that moment. These are mental experiences. They
right.
don't often just dissipate. They come out in different things, and we're stronger than what we are, and because God has created us to be strong. Like he was saying, Obadiah was saying that, you know, it's one person that's strong enough to go back and get that last sheep. Okay, what is the difference between that person and a person that left and never came back? And that word is trauma. It's
Yes.
trauma. How do we deal with it? How is it? How can we look at it from a broader perspective, even in our Black culture? Look how much trauma we experienced in the 1800s, in the 1500s. You see what I'm saying? So, do we think out of all of that trauma that was experienced that we will never experience? But guess what? It's in the bloodline. The only way to battle trauma and to win over trauma is to speak to trauma.
Mm, you must
You have to
speak.
speak to it. You literally have to speak to it verbally out loud and let it know you will not use fear to control my life ever again.
Mm. So, not speaking about something that happened actually holds it inside of you so that it
It's in
never
there
goes away. So, in
because you
order to
don't.
get rid of it, you must speak.
You have to be, because again, there's words and emotions associated with the trauma that was not said.
Mm.
That was not said. And people experience trauma every single moment of the day.
And I think
Somebody
about
right
how
now is experiencing trauma
going through it.
right now.
And I think about how people tell children don't talk about things. And that's the worst thing you can do is not let them talk, not let them express what they're feeling, not let them
Yeah.
cry. You have to express the emotion when something has affected you, because if it gets bottled up, and then we know that, like you said, it manifests in physical ailments, the negative
Yes. That's
energy
the thing.
in your body, in the cells in your body, and it
Right.
causes the physical manifestation of that trauma.
Of sickness. Of
Sickness.
sickness. And that's it. What else can it do? It's still inside. So it causes toxicity. inside of us. If you understand the workings of the brain releases adrenaline. Adrenaline turns into cortisol. Cortisol turns into free radicals. Free radicals taint the blood and causes sickness. And if every time, if you don't, again, adrenaline is only responses to fear. Trauma is fear. If the trauma is still in the mind, if it's still in the physical being, it's going to continue to release adrenaline, whether you realize it or not. That's what causes high blood pressure.
Yes.
That's what causes, diabetes. Because think about it, the body is a fine-tuned working machine.
Yes.
It's a fine-tuned working machine. So to communicate with your being, you have to communicate with it. What does it need? It does not just need food and water. It needs resolve.
Yes. Resolve the trauma.
Resolve.
Resolve
Yeah,
the
you
trauma.
have to resolve. Speak to your being, mind. What's going on with the mind? What's going on with the heart? The heart is the one that holds the issues. And the issues of life flow out of it every single moment of the day. So what's really going on? What blocks the heart and mind from communicating? Fear. It blocks it. So if the heart cannot settle the issues of life, what do you think is going to happen? It's just going to keep expanding.
Yes.
I truly believe stress is and trauma is one of the leading cause to heart disease.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any doctor tell you stress kills. Where do you think stress comes from? Trauma,
That's right.
mild, moderate, severe.
Right. And it's not what happened to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you. It's how you think about what happens to you. That's
Write about it.
the
I don't care
thought.
how you get rid of it. Write about it.
Yes.
Record about it. Let me tell. I want to tell our listeners this. I'm gonna tell you this because this is something I do in therapy. You get you a handheld recorder, whether you use your phone or any handheld device. Talk about your trauma. Talk about what you experienced and listen to yourself. And you tell me whether you don't hear yourself in traumatized area or not. And you
Mm-hmm.
listen to it like you listen to a person. And if you hear those tones in your voice, the volume in your voice, you know what I'm saying? The pitch in your voice go high and low. Listen to it. Does it sound like that person has resolved it? Or does that sound that person may not have resolved but think they have? You listen to it and you determine whether you need help
90
or not.
seconds.
There you go. Got your recorder right on your phone. Just speak into it and then listen
Yeah.
to it.
And
You'll
listen.
know.
Listen to yourself. Thank you so much for listening to me. And again, my name is Dr. Debbie Green. For those who need counseling or any type of issues that you may have that you may not know what to do with, please feel free. Soulful Solutions with the S 77 at gmail.com. Thank you. Facebook, again, thank you. Subscribe to our channels because we're here Monday through Sunday, Monday through Saturday, and I'm here every Thursday. And I would like to hear from you. Thank you so much.
All right. See you tomorrow on Health
Absolutely.
and Well-Being with VI.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear every show in the archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. You can also hear today's show on the Female Solution Facebook page, 10 www.facebook.com/the-female-solution. Leave your comments about today's show. You can always reach me on my website at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Watch our TV shows, listen to our radio shows, order our books, and be sure to get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family listening from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, sheshe. India, Kanaba, Japan,
Great show.
Korea,
Interesting stories today.
Russia,
As always.
You never know what people have been